Welcome to Wake, a cold reading of James Joyce's Finnegans Wake, just to hear it out loud. Join Toby Malone and TJ Young, along with some special friends, as we puzzle our way through what we once thought was an unreadable book to produce a surprisingly listenable podcast. It is Tuesday, August 20th, 2024. It has been 95 days since we've started reading, with 216 pages complete of 628, meaning we have 412 pages left to go and are 34.39% of the way through Finnegans Wake. Welcome to episode 17 of Wake, the podcast dedicated to going through the looking glass, delving into night visions, and merrily mixing metaphors, all in the name of fulfilling a long-held bucket list item, reading James Joyce's Finnegans Wake out loud just once. I am your host, Toby Malone, joined once more by the man who has verbally agreed to write the stage adaptation of the life of Festy King, my co-host, TJ Young. Hi, TJ.
Hi, Toby. I just want to let you know, unless it is in writing and I have signed, I dedicate myself to no such task.
Come on, the world needs it.
Watch, if Festy King is, I will make a bet. Here, right now. If Festy King is mentioned in this book 3 more times.
3 more times? Oh, okay. I'm going to come up. I'm going to add a siren or some kind of klaxon that will play every time Festy comes up. But you may not have wanted to make that guarantee. But excellent. I'm very glad you're here. I'm also delighted to say that we're welcoming our guest today with impulses right in line with our own. That impulse of reading Finnegans Wake just to see if they can. Lucy Brazier, welcome to Wake.
Hi, woo, thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here. Big fan of the podcast. And really nice to meet people with the same kind of feel of how to tackle the wake as myself. Just give it a go, see what happens.
Absolutely. So the way that Lucy and I connected was that Lucy wrote a book in 2018 called Finnegans What? A Guide by an Idiot, which is the same kind of self-deprecating kind of approach to this that we have with this podcast. So you wrote this book, Finnegans What, after reading, I believe these were posts on your website that you then collated together.
That's right. Yeah, I was in between writing projects and I needed something to keep me occupied, and I was kind of dared to do it actually by a blogging online friend. So yeah, I would just read a chapter, make notes, and then put up a post, which I've now collated into a book. It was really good fun, and but I think the podcast is a far better way to do it. Finnegans Wake is a book that should be read out loud.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, that is how it's meant to be experienced, I believe.
And it's interesting because literally on the first page of Finnegans What, you say it is helpful to read the text out loud like a child might when learning to read.
That's the only way I think you can actually get through it. If you just keep it in your head, you are going to go insane. You have got to get the words out, the sound. It's a rhythmical, musical book that's much more about how the words feel than what they actually are, in my opinion.
I find that often as I'm reading this, I'm like, I am a child learning how to read for the first time. So I appreciate that sentiment.
And so you're saying that when you read it out loud yourself to
quietly in your room? That's how I started to get through it. I just found it a bit easier to kind of get the sense. I didn't read every single word out loud, but a lot of it just to get it out there. I just read it out loud, and it made a lot more sense.
So how long did that take for you to get from beginning to end?
Oh, gosh. I can't remember now, if I'm totally honest. I mean, it must have been a good 6 months, I think. But I was really going for it. I was trying to do sort of a chapter every day. I mean, that didn't even work out always because live.
And also some of the chapters are 90 pages long.
Yes, yeah, they are pretty epic, and it just gives you a headache after a bit. But it took a while. But I was very enthused by writing it all down. Of course, I had readers waiting to hear what the next chapter was. So that kind of keeps you going, doesn't it?
We have the same sort of thing happening here with Wake, where we didn't really think anyone was going to listen, because why would they? And before we started the podcast, you talked about the Joyce community being so welcoming and being so pleased with people who are taking on these texts.
Definitely so. I've found that a lot of niche or cult things are kind of, you almost get gatekeepers who are there sort of only wanting the real purists and things like that. But so the Joyce community, just any little interest in James Joyce and they hop all over you as their best friend. It's like, just, yeah, this is brilliant. Just give it a go. And I feel really passionately now about just getting as many people to enjoy the madness as I possibly can in any way that works for them.
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's really validating all the things that we're doing because we keep waiting for the cease and desist letter that's going to say, please stop ruining this text. But then we also like to think that a lot of our the looseness and the messiness of what we're doing is what Joyce would appreciate.
Oh, absolutely. Of course he would. I think he would absolutely love this. He would be a guest on here every week.
Oh, wouldn't we love that?
You know what the great thing about us doing this across country lines is that those cease and desist letters would have to come from several places. You know, it'd be really hard to shut us down.
They're never going to shut you down.
No, and
no one's that powerful.
And like we always like to say, we are recording this. I'm based in Canada, where Finnegans Wake is in the public domain, so there's not a lot that can be done. But we hope that never comes. Have you listened to the podcast at all? Have you had a chance to?
Yeah. I've been dipping in and out of it since you made contact, and I'll be honest, I was a little bit taken aback, and then it made me nervous. It's a really high quality podcast. Your guests are great. You guys, clearly your enthusiasm comes through, and you really know what you're talking about, which made me nervous because I'm just winging it totally. So, and if you're doing the same, then well done.
I was going to say, so are we. We are. One thing I will say about Toby and I's relationship is that I think over the past 6-7 years, we have made a habit out of being able to wing things. Like, with many times we've been like, what are we doing? Well, it'll be fine. And we just go in.
We have a benefit. I'll always say that if you want a project to be joyful and to succeed, work with your best friend, it's going to go so much smoother. And so we just like hanging out together. So being able to talk about this just happens to be the forum we're using at the moment. And so, and all of those high quality guests just happen to be our friends. So we nearly all my mum and dad, my daughter's in one episode. There's all sorts of things.
I heard with your daughter and your mum and dad. That was very cool. Was TJ was doing something else. So mum and dad came in and I thought fantastic. I like to put my mum in my work as well. I think it's got to be done, hasn't it? Bring in the fam. It's lovely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's been 6 years since your book was published. So what have you taken with you in those 6 years when you think about Finnegans Wake now? Like, have you retained images, words, an overall sense of the book, or has it sort of faded a little bit now?
It's still, it's still a very potent thing in my mind. It's in its own way affected my own writing. I think as a writer, it really frees you from what you traditionally think of as being the correct way to make written work. Not saying that my work is in any way Joycean, but I think it's just made me think about how I express myself differently. I then went on to do a similar thing with Ulysses during lockdown. I wrote Sex Saving a Lucky Potato, which was about Ulysses. And it's just given me a real kind of passion and a bit more insight into that postmodernist literature. But yeah, the beauty of Finnegans Wake, amongst all that complexity, the darkness and the light all together, that stays with you. There's some really sort of strong images there. They say Ulysses was the book of the day, and Finnegans Wake is like a night book almost, a crazy fevered dream. It's difficult to say how it affects you, but it stays with you forever.
Well, it's so good to have you, and we're looking forward to reading. We're going to start do a bit of a reading today. As always, we're going to be reading from the Penguin Modern Classics edition of Finnegans Wake, published in 2000 with a foreword by Seamus Dean. Today we're reading the first half of chapter 2.1. So yes, we're into book 2, from pages 219 to 240 in this edition. This is a segment that is scandalously titled Night Games, Child's Play, Glug, Shem must guess the colour of his sister's underwear by the Oxford World's Classic Edition of 2012. We'll discuss that and whether or not we get to...
It's like must guess? Like it's required?
What happens if he doesn't? The consequences, my word.
So, I mean, maybe that'll be in the second half of 2-1 because we're only getting the first half, but we have that to look forward to, I guess. So, yes, so we'll get to the end and we will discuss the brief summaries of what's happening at the end of the reading. And now, without further ado, Finnegans Wake. Every evening at lighting up a clock sharp and until further notice in Phoenix Playhouse. Bar and convenience is always open. Diddlem Club downstairs. Entrancins, gads, a scrab. The quality, 1 large shilling. Newly billed for each wicked-day perfumance. Somnos massinaes. By arraignment, child dreams hours, excerptated. Jam pots, rinse porters, taken in token, with nightly redistribution of parts and players by the puppetry producer and daily dubbing of ghosters, with the benediction of the holy Genesius Archimimus, and under the distinguished patronage of their elderships of the Oldens from the 4 coroners of Findrius, Murius, Gorius, and Phallius, Messoirs the Coabs, Clive Solus, Glorious Kettle, Perbedio Lancy, and Pierre du Sort, while the Caesar-in-Chief looks on. Senate, as played to the Adelphi by the brothers Bratislav, Hyrcan and Aristobulus, after Humpteen Dumpteen revivals, before all the king horses with all the queen's mum, and word loosed over 7 seas, crowd blast in Certitelen Teuto Slav Zen Latin sound script, in 4 tabloids, while Fern may cold us until Fern make cold, the mims of Mick, Nick and the Maggies, adopted from the Ballymooney blood-ridden Merthyr by Blue Chin Black Delane. Orthaway's Big Story featuring...
Glug, Mr. Seamus McQuillid, hear the riddles between the robot and his dress circular and the gangsters in the rogues gallery. The bold, bad, bleak boy of the storybooks who, when the tab goes up, as we discover, because he knew too much and been divorced into disgrace court by...
The Floras, Girl Scouts from St. Bride's finishing establishment, demand assislitades, a month's bunch of pretty maidens who, while they pick on her, their pet peeve, formed the Valkyrian license, the guard for...
Izod, Miss Butis Pot, ask the attendess for a leaflet. A bewitching blonde who dimples delightfully and is approached in loveliness only by her grateful sister reflection in a mirror, the cloud of the opal, who, having jilted Glug, is being fatally fascinated by...
Chuff, Mr. Sean O'Malley, seen the chalk in the Segwayne pictograph on the safety drop. The fine, frank, fair-haired fellow of the fairy tales who wrestles the top hole of the bold, bad, bleak boy Glug, generally about caps and puds of tog bags and bog gags, or chudding redskin gunnerily or something until the embrace of pattern of somebody else or other, after which they are both carried off the set and brought home to be well soaped, sponged, and scrubbed again by...
Anne, Miss Corrie Corriendo, Grisham Scowler, bring the babes, Pieda, Poda, and Turty. She distributes mandamus monies after per dabamento, Hendra de Loven entrays. Pulcinellis must not miss our national rooster's rag, their poor old mother-in-law, who is woman of the house, playing opposite to...
Hump, Mr. Michael Gone. Read the sayings from Lax de la Zaga in the program about King Ericus of Sweden and the spirit whispers in his magical helmet. Cap a pipe with watch and topper, coat, crest, and supporters, the cause of all our grievances, the whirl, the flash, and the trouble, who, having partially recovered from a recent impeachment due to egg everlasting, but thorough and thoroughly pro-converted, propounded for psychological, is studding sail once more, jib sheets and broils, in the semblance of the substance for the membrance of the umbrance, with the remnants of the emblance reviling a quemdam supercargo of the rockery poopin heathen engaged in entertaining in his pilgrimist custom house at Caela home upon Esker those statutory persons.
The customers, components of the after-house courses of St. Patricia's Academy of the Grown-Up Gentlemen, consult the annuary, hold porters, sib suction, a bundle of a dozen of representative locomotive civics, each in quest of outings, who are still more sloppily served after every cup finally by
Saunderson, Mr. Not Olsgevinger, Tiff's days off, wouldn't stop him bad. Imitation of flatfish, torch-bearing super ape, dud half sovereign, no chi daily, roly posies, Glen of the Downs, the Gugnir, his gay swerks, his ears quack, his lolly strokey, OSV, Sharon Shiner and spoil curate, unconcerned in the mystery, but under the influence of the mildew and butt of
Kate, Miss Rachel Leah Varian. She tells forkings for bachelors under purdah of card palmer, teapot, tosspot, Madame de Elta during the pauses. Cook and dish drudge, which believes one thing that, whose be the churchyard or horts up the Askars, the show must go on. Time, the present.
With the future's one-horse ballet-battled pictures of the pageant of past history worked up with animal variations amid every glaring mangrove mazes and bee-orb tractors by Messrs. Thud and Blunder, shadows by the film folk, masses by the good people, promptings by Eleno Vitale, long shots, up closes, out blacks, and staged toilets by Hexen Success. Kochmeyer, Ickborn, and Ragnarok. Creations tastefully designed by Madame Barthree Delamode. Dances arranged by Harley Quinn and Coulombinia. Jest, jokes, jigs, and jorms by the for the wake, lent from the properties of the late cemented Mr. T. M. Finnegan, R.I.C. Lip masks and hair wigs by Oid Noiki, limes and floods by Crooker and Toll, Cope Pib by Capper Pedersen, Hoyd Pine hat with 24 vent holes by Morgan. Bosse and string bag from Heterodatriasis and all ladies present. Tree taken for gafted, rock rent. Fecian blends and Sourdarian doof posts by Shawveshire and Wooben Draft. The oak mole berriac with silk trick to mesh from shop soury seeds manchap, grabstone bag from General Odors mailed, the crack, that's cork, by the smoker from the gods, the interjection, Buckley, by the firement of the pit, accidental music, provincially arranged by La Archette and La Cord, Melodiatoricitious, and profusion by the score. To start with in the beginning, we need herely be marked a community prayer, everyone for himself, and to conclude with as an exodus. We think it well to add a choral and canon, good for us all, songs between the acts by the Ambifarious and of Annapolis, Joan Mock Comic, male soprano, and Jean Solaslavian, bass noble, respectively. O Mester Saugermon, F. Tess S. Wot, ye dukes, ye do. Then I'm not sir pleased, yet ye want that bottle of Savon Quepepier and oof, off, nutch de Rausch Verlas mich nicht, uh, nicht. till the summit senses of Climbback's Catastrophophere, the Bearded Mountain, Polymop, Bear the Roostish, the River Romps to Nursery, Midikins in Undiform. The whole Thugomagog included the portions understood to be omitted as the result of the respective titulars neglecting to produce themselves, to be wound up for an in, enactment by the magnificent transformation scene showing the radium wedding of need and mooring and the dawn of peace, pure, perfect, and perpetual, waking the weary of the world.
An argument follows. Chuffy was an angel then, and his sword flesh likening. Fool's top, stinkty, sancty, meekly loose, defendy noose from prowlabouts, make a shine on the cursed. Amen. But the Dublin Solf was in Glugger, that lost to learning punked. He was spuffing and sputting, tussing like an anacine, whipping his eyes out and gnashing his teats over the brivides from existers and the outher libby box of life. He hath clouchly chosen a clay blade that makes praises to his three of clubs. To part from these, my corsets, is into overlusting fear. Acts of feet, hoof, and jarity, athlete's longfoot, jowl, up here. Amingst that nombre of evelings, but now pierceful in their suggestiveness, were those first girly stirs, with zitterings of flight released and twinglings of twitch bells in ronda laughter, with waverings that made shimmer shake rather naughtily all the dunk-skended airs and shy-lit beckonings from behind him's back. Sammy, call on. Miriam, she was shuffering all the diseasinesses of the unheard of. Mary Louise and Shushapinas. If Ark could no more salve his agnals from the wiles of Willy Woolly Wolf, if all the airish signics of her dip and dump helibet from the Father Hogum till the Mutter Masons could not that glug to catch her by the colour of her brideness. Not Rose, Sevilla, nor Citronelle, not Esmeralda, Provincia, nor Indra, nor Viola, even nor all of them four themes over. But the montage stick with the melody jaw, I am, twin to mine, all these things. Up tightly in the front, down again on the loose, drim and drumming on her back, and a pop from her whistle. What is that, O holy troopers? Is ot given yo? Up he stoopled. Glee, you geese. With search of fling did Dineir see. Be me Owen and car me Hugh. And if you what you my call for me, I will wish you may call for you. And they are met face a facing. They are set force to force. And no such Copenhagen Marengo was less so fated for a fall since the Glenna's mole of smiling thrushes patch white past O'Sheen scowl.
Arrest thee, scald brother, came the Evangelon, sabre accusant from all St. John's Wood to kill or maim him, and be dumb but ill surrested. Et would proffer to his delected one his trifle from the grass. Space. Who are you? The cat's mother? A time. What do you lack? The look of a queen. But what is that which is one going to prehend? Seeks, buzzling his brains, the finder. The how to say to it is what it is, he must, who must, word and shall. A dark tongue's cunning. O Theoporal, Ethiolop, law, the poor lie. He asked of the hoothed fire shield, but it was untergone unto the mat-hued heaven. He soft it from the loft, but that bore nae mark nae message. He looked upon the blooming grund where only his corns were growning. At last he listed back to Beckline how she pranked alone so jauntily, the scan for schooling, with naught awired from the wordless either. Item, he was hard set then. He wanted to go somewhere while he was weeting. Utem, he wished to grieve on the good persons, that is the four gentlemen. Otem, And it was not a long time till he was feeling true for him. He was a godder pursuer, and it was short after that he was fooling me haunt to mahind he was an ingine ruber. Eat him. He was at his thinker aunts to give, before gentlemen, the presence of a cups. And this is what he would be willing. He fold the ford, he found the hurtled stones, they fell ill with the gravy duck, and he sod town with the roust of the meast. A tem. To whereby hangs our tales. Aho, this poor glug! It was so said of him, about of his old font mother. Truly deplorable! Oh, dire! Ah, dire! And all the frightfulness whom he inhabited after his colline-born janitor. Sometime towerable, with that hairy antlets on him and the bauble light bulging out of his sockets, whiling away, she sprankled his all over with her noses of interrogation. How do you do that lack of a lock and pass the poker, please? And bids him tend her, lute and airly. Sing, sweetheart, thing to me a lun. So that glug, the poor one, in that limbo pool which was his subniciousness, he could scarce of all not know whither his mordor had burst a blabber, or if the Vogelstones that hit his tin pan was that merely his skull missed his trompe, or midst his fluting. Ah, ho, Sicily, or
The youngling delightsome, frillis, and players are now showing drawn, if bud one, or if in florin league, drawn up consocially at the hinder sight of the common garter. Her boy fiend, or theirs, if they are so pluralied, cometh up as a trappador, sinking how he must fond for himself by gaze work what their colours wear as they are all shown drawn up. Tyreton, Cheriton, Tyreton ba. Doth that not satisfy youth, sir? Quanti purti bellas, here, Madam Life. And what are you going to charm them to, Madam? Do say. Cinderella Nelly angled her slipper. It was Cho Chenny yet brought her a groom. He will angst for of them from their commoner guardian at their next lineup, who is really the rapier of their two, though Thother brother can hold his own, especially for he banished it with his hand the whole time. Mayman, Mamain, simply gracious, my ula, and re-loose that thong off his art. Hath thou feel like carbuckly ones? Upon which his poor whore proxis, prioxer, his prioxery, theirs is a little tittery tit of hilarity. Laud, oh me soul, Laud, oh me soul. See, and the word cherry is at voiced, ring soundingly by their toots assembled, though not meaning to be clever, but just as with a shrug of their hips, to go in Troy and Harf a freak at himself by all that story to the Ostramarians. Otherwise, holding their noises, their insinuate quite private, knee, he make peace in his preachers and play with esteem. Werewolf, aloof, tubu.
So Ulf for his toffee took, the ruck made raid, as slick as legs would run, and he anchored on his hunkers with the belly pressed, asking, "What's my muffin stuffing atches for these times? To wheat, breath and bother and what a curse. Then breath more bother and more what a curse. Then no breath, no bother, but war are worms, and shim shallave shom." As Rigagnolina to Mountagnone, what she meaned he could not can. All she meaned was Galton Silverp. All she meaned was some night's plough jam. It's driving her daft like he's so dumb. If he'd lonely talk instead of only gawk, as thought Yeatman hat stuck hit stick, although his spokes, and if he would not wally so, he speak, sweetie bird, mitzy mitzy, though I did ate tough turf, I'm not the bog doxy. Have you mon brimstone? No. or Helfernerstein? No. Or Van Diemen's Coral Pearl? No. He has lost. Off to clutch, Glug, for what? Shape your rarers. Glug, for wheel. Ring we round. Chuff, farewell. Chuff chuffs in as even. All's rice with their world. Yet, tears, who can her mater be? She's promised he'd eye her, to try up her pretty. But now it's so longed and so fared and so forth. Jerry for jauntings, alibi, fled. The flosses all, and mossies all, they drooped upon her draped brimfall. The bowknots, the showlots, they wilted into woeblots. The paragraph, knew whichly whether to weep or laugh, for always down in Carolina's lovely diners vaunt their view.
Poor Isis sits, a glooming, so gleaming in the gloaming. The tinsel's a touch tarnished winds, no lovely noise awound her swans. Hey, lass! Woe fear gleam she so glooming, this poor pathete Isolde. Her bowman's gone of a cool. Be good enough to simper a size. If he's at anywhere, she's therefore to join him. If it's to be nowhere, she's going to too. But if he'll go to be a son to Frances, she'll stay daughter of Clare. Bring tansy, throw myrtle, strew rue, rue, rue. She is fading out like Journey's clothes, so you can't see her now. Still we know how day the dyer works, in dims and deeps and dusks and darks. And among the shades that Eve's now wearing, she'll meet a new fiancé, tryst and trow. Mammy was, Mimmy is, Minusculine's to be. In the D dips a dame, and the dame desires a demsel, but the demsel dresses Dolly, and the Dolly does a Dulcie Damble. The same renew. For though she's unmarried, she'll after truss up and help that hussy band how to hop. Hip it and trip it and chirrup and sing. Lord Chuffy's sky sharap and Glug's got to swing. So and so, toe by toe, to and fro they go round, for they are the ingels, scattering nods as girls who may, for they are an angel's garland. Catchmire stockings, libertied garters, shoddy shoes, quicked out with silver, pennyfair caps on pinafore frocks, and a ring on her foam-thing finger. And they leap so loopily as they links to light, and they look so louvily love-lit, noosed in a numptuous night. With Astley glints in, and decoy glance out, they rampart a listle, then romp ride round in rout. Say them all, but tell them apart. Catanzanzo coloratura. R is rubretra, and A is arancia. Y is for yilla, and N for greener. Rin! B is Bloy Blue, and O with odalisque O, while W waters the fleurettes of Novembrance. Though they're all but merely a schoolgirl, yet these way went they. I' the view of the avenue dancing goes entrancing roundly. Miss Oodles of Anems before the Luvium does like. So. And then again does like. So. And Miss Endles of Eons, Eftadius of Irae does like. So. And then again does like. So. The many wiles of Windsure.
The grocer's bod, she slips her hand in her haricot bag, and the lady-in-waiting sips her sup from her paraffin can. Miss Wildhair, quick doctor, helps her scouts up the causeway, and flashed instinct she herds a feticle of thunder. The widow, McGrivery, she knits cat's cradles. This bountiful actress leashes a harrier under her tongue. And here's the girl who she's kneeled in cold fashion, and she's told her priest, psst, she's pot on a chat. And this last not least, Rick Kissimmee woman who she writes foot fortunes money times over in the nursery dust with her capital thumb. Buzz. All runaway sheep bound back Bo Peep, trailing their teenies behind them. And these ways wend they, and those ways went they. Winnie, Olive, and Beatrice, Nellie and Ida, Amy and Rue. Here they come back, all the gay pack, for they are all florals, from Fancy and Pansy to Papavera's blush. Forsake me not, while there's leaf, there's hope. With Prim Tim's ruse and Mary May's blossom, all the flowers of the Angelus garden. But vice reversing there out from those palms of perfection to anger abhor, tree rake, monotan, scrossly out of scout of ocean, ververed with word, with wad, what torments, tournaments of complementary rages wrought, the Devlin from his punch pole to his tummy's chartreuse and his displayed all the oath word science of his visible disgrace. He was feeling so funny and floored for the cue, all over which girls as he don't know who's Hugh. If Goosery's gazius would but fain smile him a smile, he would be fondling a praise he ate some nice bit of fluff. But no jest reveals his connoth. They're all odds against him, the beasties. Scratch, start. He dove his head into Wat Murray, gave Stuart Rail a puck of the on the plexus, wrestled a hurry come union with the gilly bag, wiped all his senses, martial and menial, out of Shrove Sunday McPherson, excremated as freely as any froth blower into McIsaac, had a belting bout, chase to chase, with McAdoo, about nothing, and childhood's age being and shame least, tell a tartan, taciturn, toothsome, tarascone, tortone, vestimentivarius, chlamydia phagian, embrettulated himself for any time untellable with what hung over the Machonosian middle from the Sicarius of the Greeks, home.
All while, Moosh Mrs. from Mungy Monsey, praying in his mind, son of Everallin, within himself, he swore, Macnoo Maggotty Mag, cross of a coppersmith bishop, he would split. He would do big squeal like holy tripped pat. Seek hells where from Yank Islanders the patriot is absolation. Mocknitzer, Gennick, he takes skiff come first dagreen day over wide tumbler, rough and dark, till when bow of the shower show of the boa, with 3 shirts and a wind, pagoda permettant, Cucol of Avante, the Bruce, the Coriolano, and the Ignatio, from Prudels to the secular, but from the common to the nauta. Bye bye, Brassolis, I'm breathing. Our war, dully grey, a Conard stream of Lodus circles. Here he shufflucifinis, gel chassa no more. Missionary for the ministery to all the Sems of Aram. Shamash, Eon of Era. Mums for Maxim, bands for book, and dodgesome Dora for hedge-hung shoulder mistress. And Uncle Sinanese coach with diligence. Disconnection of the succeeding. He whole hog himself for Carberry banishment care of Pennsylvania, British America, to melt Mrs. Gloria of the Bunkers Trust, recorporated, prunty, by the meteoromancy and linguified Hesirogian, quit to hail a hurry Laracor and catch the Paname Turicum, and regain that absentee tarry easty. His sitta immediata, by the alley and the detour, and Farrakard available gen 20 years. Right for Rovy the Roader, from the safe side of a distance, Libera, nostalgia. Beat Lorienti Otuli, Euro pra nobis. Every monk his own casual, where every little ligger is his own ligo tenamente, with inclined jams in full purview to his pronaos and to the derentane at his reredos. Fus finister, foray scraper, he would, with the greatest of ease, before all waiting midhook, by dear home threshold on the raging canal, other foresights of Jordan. Heave a heavy, water boy. Make one of Hissens with a knock-on cow and a chow collegians and fire off. Giol Giornau, foul substituten Malmud, his fast epistle to the Hebrews. From Cernilius Lomtime Prepostius of Tu Maria to the clutch in Antich, Salvo, Ladix and Jointerermen. No more Turkenscolds. Free leaves for the everybody's. All tinsermen in the yard, with harm and aches till father alters. Wild primates not stop him from at rearing a writing in handy antics. Nom de plume, gout strap fenlands, and send Jarge for Mary Inklenders. And don't you loch if his vine shacking Schwemmy, for he is the general, make no mistake in he. He is General Jinglesome.
Go in for scrivenary, with the satiety of Arthur's in SPQ Irish, and inform to the old sniggering publicing press and its nation of sheep-copers about the whole plighty troth between them. Milady of Milady made melody of malady, she the lalage of leonesses, and him her knave errant, to wild Rosela Gilligan from croppy Crowhaw, for all within crystal range. Ukalepe, Lotha's leave, Nemo in Patria, the luncher out, Skillian Carib dish, a wandering wreck, from the Mermaid's Tavern, Bully famous, Naughty calves, mother of misery, Walpurgis nacht. Malish, he would bear to untired world of Lehman Conon Austria, and what a strip poker globe-trouble they pairs with looks. How Wholefellows, his guffer, the Sabbatarian, might faction split his beard. He too had a great big O in the megafundum of his Thomas Hunders, and how her Letty's shape, his gummer, that congealed sponsor, she had never cessed at waking Maltas among the Jemisons, since the clough that Metax dealt her made her microcosm as gap as down low. So they fished in the kettle and fought free, and if she bit his talabout, all hat tiffin for thea. He would juiced sit it all right down, just as he would juiced set it all up, all wrathfully rate in blotch and void, yielding to no man in him's ignorance, seeing how heartily sorry he was, owning to the contrition of his bike-stool. And reading off his flesh skin and writing with his quillbone, fill full 9 quires with it for his auditors, Caxton and Pollock, a most miraculous Jeremy head sin book for all the peoples. Under the presidency of the Suchess of Sycanenuso, it had to be held in, thoroughly enjoyed by many, so many on block at Boyrot season, and for their account utterly admired by her husband in sole intimacy, about whose told his innocence, and the gruesome head's uric of his spectroscope, and why he was off colour, and how he was ambothed again by the very spect of himself, first on the cheek side by Michelangelo, and besoons that, over on the old jowly side by Bill C. Babby. And the suburbs formula, why they provincials drollo egg spilled him out of his homity dromity narrow-knee domum, Osco de Basco de Pesco de Bisco, because all his creature comfort was an omelette finis urbis in an arc finis orb, and no master how he mustered, mind never mend, he could neither swuck in non neither swimp in the flood of socialism, and the best and shortest way of blacking out a quarterlock of all the sorrows of Sexton, until he would accost her cum il fu in Teredus as a wagoner would his mud-heeledy Wiesendonk at their tryst in Parisese, after torments of 2 send years, bread cast out on waters making goods at maturity, Mondemoiseur of Casanuova and Mademoiselle of Armentieres, Niblonovis, Niblonovio, Nobio and Nuvi in Innovatium, Oxy Tanti Tempoli. He would sigh through severals of sanctuaries, may what may, might who might, as so as to meet somewhere, if produced on a demi-pension for his whole loaf-time, payment in goo to slee, music, and poisonal company, following which, like ipsi secum, when he's fingon to foil the fluta, she could have all the GSM she moo-hooed after 4 and rickwards to her including science of sonorous silence, while he, being brung up on a soul butter, have recourse, of course, to poetry, with tears for his coronation, such as engines weep. Was lift worth leaving? Nesh. Tholidoth, tree trine, zoc racing, stone, arty reminiscitive, at bandstand finale on Gran Carriero, dreaming largesse of life size over early lived offs. All old satyrs of the sow scepter, highly nutritious family histrionic, genetric sling with Avis and Avia, that simple pair, and descendant down on volutipads by avuncular process to Neurus and Noverca, those notorious nepotists, circumpictified in their sobrine census, patras all of them by the gloss on their germane faces and their so serene eyes like transparence of vitricus, patruits of to a man, the Archimede levers of his econome world. Remember thee, Castle Throwen? One's prop Serapops treed, now Stohong Baroque. And oil paint use a pum if yell trace me. They're titled to where there was a hovel, not a havel, the first rattle of his Juniverse, with a ting-tum ting-ling, and next, Ginna Paddy, got a petty, Gussies, gif it ope, while it's shom. My God, alas, that dear old tum-tum home, whereof in youth food port I prayed, amook the verdigrassy convict Valsal's dazes, and cloitered for armament in thy bosom sheed.
His mouth full of ecstasy, for Xing young thing of Sheena from Yorayumi across the Timor Sea. Hereupon, maladventure, shot pinging up through the arrow root of his wisdom, who thought him of Fonar all feast king, almost said Festa King, feast king of Shelley's by googling Lovey, regally Frey Therum, eagerly plumbed, and was but gumboil or already prods, wrench some horsery, McGee plods, coffin acid, octo carry ploods, dense floppins, muggerdery, as thought it had been zwain into, wholly sanguish, blooded up, disconvulsing the fixtures of his phiz. A pang with his temporary chewer, med him a crazy chump of a Haven Jube Ciliasis, Joshua Croesus, son of Nun, though he shall live for millions of years, a life of billions of years, from their rose-aced glows to their violast lusters, he shall not forget that pucking pugesses, holy house balls, and bloody acres, like gnawing under unhearthed. But by Jove, Chorodus, seed of some, after he had bait his breastplates for forgetting his bird's place, it was soon that he rehad himself. But a prayer, no, that comes later. But contrite attrition, nay, that we passed. Mid escricism, so is richt. And it was so. And Maustus more and more resumed his soul, with go Fertris off to Alad out of this. An old Stein song. He threwed his fit up in his ears to his heirs, rolled his polygon eyes, snivelled from his snows, and blew the guff out of his horny pipe. The hop jump jerk of the ladle broom jig that he learned in Locofoco when a red hot turns spite he under rain of a old roastin and bowl rat skillers radios. Why was the man, for he's doing her wrong? Lookery looks, how he's knots in his entrails. Mookery mooks, it's a grip of his grips. Seekery seeks, why his bitings his head off. Chokery chokes, for his spurt of coal. And may his pitch dilute not give him chromatus. For the mile that bleaks you blank his mostly carbo, where the infallibilist might pursue his combarenda, corbrenda, with a pure flame and a true flame and a flame all to gasser suit. The worst is over. Wait, and the dun bunny mag may gang to presses, with Denny Finnan me canty ho, in the lost of the glimness. So's he most, for he would himself deal a treatment as might he be trusted in anticipation of his inclination unto fruitification for a major operation. When pip, a message interfering, intermittent, interskips from their pet of hers and waves, call me Vincy names, call her a Stell, a butterfly from her zip clasping handbag, a wounded dove, a started from escaping out her forecoats. Isle whale of ewes, O Dorherlint, the poetesser, the poetesser, and around its scoured cap, she was twilled and a twin to flame, a flame, to let the latest know she's marred. A pim it goes backbald, top burns its so lest. A claribel come back to errand. Hers before his even posted air penned. He's your change. Think you met him. Thank you met him. Go daft noon Madden. Mind the step. Please stoop oh to please. Stop. What saying? I have sorted from to him now, dear mate ashore. So completely till I can get redressed, which means the end of my stays in the languish of tentangle. Is you zealous of mess, brother? Did you boo moily Lord? You supported to be on the conditionally rejected? Satanly laid. Can that sob stuff wine wiggly? Stop up, Mavrone, and sit in my lap. Pepette, though I'd much rather not. Like things are is all invisible, decoded.
Now a run for his money. Now a dash to her dot. Old Cocker, young Crowie, Sifada, Sosson, a brand new speed hound outstripper us on the wind, like a waft to wing weary one, or a sauce to a coastguard. For directly with his whoop, stop, and up lepsy didando a tishy, in appreciable less time than it takes a glaciator to submerge her, and at this. Was he again a gob before the trembly ones, a sparks gape off, double scarred, gotten all up, in a simple sail or made, and shaking the storm out of his hiccups? The smartest vessel you could find would elazily him on her knee, as her lucky for the Rio Grande. He's a pigtail tar, and if he hadn't got it too thick, he'd a telltale tall of his picture on a wall, with his photo in the papers for cutting molten legs and capers, letting on he'd just be japers, and his tail cooked up. Goal! It's one by its length. Angelina's, hide from the light those hues that your sin bow may bring to light. Though down to your dower strip he's bent to knee, he maun't no ledgings there. For a haunting way will go, and you need not make your mow. Find the French for frocks, and translate it into shocks of such as touch we show and show. He is guessing at hers, for all he is worse, the seagoer. Hark to his wily geeses goosling by, and play fair, lady. And note that they who will in exile can for a dog, while them that won't leave Ingle End says now for no. For he falters how he hates to trouble them without. But leaving Codhead's mitre and the heron's plumes sinstrent to the server of servants and Rex of Regums, and making a bolder dash for lubberty of speech, he asks not have you seen a match being struck, nor is this powder mine, but letting pun plays pass to earnest. Haps the journ of fags, nao. Haps the main jaunties, nao hao. Haps the per causes nuncy bellies, nao hao hao. Asky, 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 go on. Me cow, get. Ping and ping nuan, ping porn pong.
And he did get their anniescence and slink his hook away. Alligator comes alligator like a chimista in chamises, whom the hurricane hurries and hots foots zingo zango sago, to hoots of Utskut Urkur Jamal Quum Yalla Yawash Yak. For he could shia pia cho pachu upon a sharp snack of pure underfallen engelsk, melon mool on tartar tortoise, tsuki saki on soppy suppon, as rascally and as bascally as your cheese chalk cow cud spinach. Makoto, wagta crowday, gela gala nausi is, yet right divining do not was. Hovo bovo haffogate hockey di matzi in kamika. He had his spirits all fouling on him. To vet most griposely, he was bedizzled and debuzzled. He had his Trisius cavalier on, and looked like Bruddy Helm. A shelling, a cockshy, and a donkey shot at, or a peso basin to join the armada.
But Sin Sho Panza, could any Brody which walked this world with eyes wide open have looked twinsomer than the Krell he left behind him? Candidatus, Viridois, Aria, Ariela Sign Lab. Of all the green heroes ever worn cotton breeches, the whitemost, the goldenest. How he stud theirs with himself mooxed kevenly, and their atrovolitarinary, the churchman child father from Tonsor's tuft to Almonder's toes, hapography and duo tegers sumi, son sopit to most of sire six tusks, of Myaquini's sign osur heavenly buddy time, and wretched of his near ceases, a mickly dazzly eerily oily with lucicurlis, a soul neatsier by Svedol's priesteded. Their trail the traactive, the dim dandy panties knows the play of the eyelids, with his gamecock spurts and his smile liquid glue, the serious soiree ever windling war, whiles his host of spritties, less brillaridariness. They went pay henning and rippa pad around him. Pilgrim, Prinkips, Carolier, Cavanier, and Neuro Neochoristic congratulations, quite puringly excited, alerting to him all of the lick names and the litany with the terms in which no little Doosley ne'er ever thinks about implying except to her future's year, and sending him perfume most prey puffs ses- to satisfy more than tease him to tease him. Schlee help, now you've mass muled your tri- triglolect a bit. Yes, misk, Yesimi? That he, the fine hued, the fair hailed, the far ahead, might bouchave onto each but everyone, as far as durst assume the have mercy honors of his Kistler license, meanings Andor and injur- injurious till imbetterer. We know you like Latin with Essius Impurus, and your liber as the sea. We sentry like gurgles love the nargly gargly, so RBG. Tell that old Franke Boyuk to bellow up the Tom Bucky and his tum tum organ and give us a gust of his gushy old goof. Hymn number 29. Oh, the singing. Happy little girlie comes to have a adolphited such an Adelphus. Oh, the swinging hop pops so go holden. They've come to chant in choir. They say their salat, the maiden's prayer to the messenger of his nabis, prostituting themselves each wise and combiningly. Fate ha told the hands. Be it honored, bow the head. May thine evings in be blissful, even of bliss. As we so hope for ablution, for the sake of the far bung and of the scent and of the holy drops, immense a pause. There the orison arises mesquite white as Osman glory, ebbing wasteward, leaves to the soul of light its fading silence. Allah, la, 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 the turquoised sky. Then,
Xanthos, 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 we thank to thine, mighty innocent, that didst bring it off fruit. Should in after years it become about you, will after desk job duty become a bank Midland mansioner. We and I shall reside with our obedient servants among Burke's Mobility at La Roserie, Aylesbury Road. Red bricks are all hellishly good values if you trust to the roster of ads, but we'll save up ourselves and nab what's nicest and boskiest of timber trees in the neighbourhood. Onkell's plot. Lockham oaks, Turkish hazels, Greek firs, incense palm, etc. The hypsometers of Mount Anvil is held to be dying out of arthrotaxis, but praise lend larynx o'thul. The wych elm of the Manlaw is still flourishing in the open because it's native of our nature, and the seeds was sent by fortune. We'll have our private palipeachum pillar postons for love-sick Lethanies fondly affixed to our front railings and swings, hammocks, tight-taut ballet lines, accommodation nooks, and prismic bath-boits to make envy eyes mouth water and wonder when they binocular us from their embassured windows in our garden rare. Fight shall be our number on the Auto Kinanton, and Chubby in his chuff as Frownley chauffeur. Tea will be waiting for uns, and I sold you the first entries. Our cousin Gormand, Percy, the pup, will denounce the sniff-nomers of all callers, where among our Siamese sister, Tabitha, the nine-lived, will extend to the full her hearty welcome, while the turf and twigs they tattle. Tin tin, tin tin. Lady Marmella Shortbread will walk in for supper with her marchpane switch on, her necklace of almonds, and her poirette Sunday dress with bracelets of honey, and her cochineal hose with the caramel dancings, the briskly best from Booty's town, and her sucking staff of ivory mint. You mustn't miss it, or you'll be sorry. Charmeuse's chlores, glycerine jewels, Lindolite fans, and perfumed sirenettes. And the Prince Le Monde will be graciously pleased. His 6 chocolate pages will run bugling before him, and cocoa cream toddle after with his stick sword in a pink cushion. We think his sparkling headiness ought to know Lady Marmella. Lewis some for his lissom hers. He's not going to Cork till Cantalamesse, or Mayhope till Rose Easter, or St. Tybalt's Day. So Neonom knows. The foamers in his fin, the mummers, her and hin. the par alone, and Dublin's all a din. We'll sing a song of single month, and you'll too, and you'll. Here are notes. Here's the key. 1, 2, 3. Chorus. So come on, ye wealthy gentrymen, whip through frocks full of fun. Thin, 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 thed jolly, and they're lively, though Billy with the coo, for to jog a jig of Christmas nice and sing a missal too. Hip shamporee, hip shamporee. Oh, you long-tailed black man, poke it up behind me. Hip hip shamporee. And Jessie's put the pumpkin round. Alleluia.
Since the days of Romulus and Ray Moose, the Pavernos have been strident through their struts of chapel disute, their valses of mead and yodeled through the purely ouse of Ballybuff. Many a mismy cloudy had tripped taintly among the Hercourt strayed railway, and the Rigadoons have held ragtime revels on the plateau plain of Grange Gorman, and though since that sterlings and guineas have been replaced by brooks and lions, and some progress have been made on stilts, and the races have come and gone, and time, that chef of seasoners, has made his usual astute set use of end adjustables, and what not will be is not was, those Dancerdales and Cancanzanese have come stimmering down for a begamement through the bedeftdom of Poe's Taorns, the obesity of Pa's teapucks, as lithe and limb-free limber as when Momi mummed at Ma. Just so styled with the gnats and their flower heads now, and each of all has a love stalk unto herself, and the tot of all the tits of their understamens is as open as he can possibly she, and is torn-soled, straight-cut, or side-waist, accordant to the corsets of things feminite, towards him in heliolatry, so they may catch cup in their caliazets, alls they go troping those parachutes from his muscalone pistil, for he can eye-spy through them to their self-colours, nevertheless their tissue peepers, meaning the mulberry mesh, the time of appling flowers, a guarded figure of speech, a variety of perfume, a bridal, sea mist in so one, as likely as seesaw. Oh my good miss, oh my great mess, oh my prite zeasely pre-shoes, while dewy fully as dim dumbbells, all a listen to his elixir. Lovely't.
And they said to him, enchanted, dear sweet sandalless, young confessor, dear dearest, we hear about Bloss, O Cola Cola, the Solomont, pattern of the unschooled, page masters, deliverer of soft missives, round the world in 40 mails, bag, belt, and balmy beam, our Barnaboy, our our Chepachap, with the pan pipe in your put away, Gab Borab, when you will be after doing all your sightseeing and sound hearing and smell sniffing and tasty tasting and tender touchings and all Dangal, send us your adorables. Thou overblast a wise and letters play of all you conceive, Chief Cletak Chappy, from your holy post, now your hast as ascertained ceremonially our names. Unclean you art not, outcast thou art not. Leper's Tower, the Carmen's Loki, has not blanched at our pollution, and your intercourse at 90 leg splits does not defile. Untouchable is not your scarce crown is on you. You are pure. You are pure. You are in your purity. You have not brought stinking members into the house of Am Amity, Eleb Enim, Tatep Notep. We name them in the hall of honor. Your head has been touched by the god Anal Ra, and your face has been brightened by the goddess Arak Itak. Return, sainted youngling, and walk once more among us. The reigns of Demonary are massacral as of yore, and Barazar is all a flower, sicker of calmly days. as shiver as shower can be. Our breed and better class is in brood and bitter pass. Labor clack longs, but we're counting on the cluck. The great cackler comes again. Sweet stalker, able lord of all our Haloes. We, to be slightly off familiar perhaps than his sickly more than nexessor, touts Philo, Philomelus as well as Magdalenus were draw pairs with two pin marks, BVD and BVD dot. So what lotteries of ticklets post hastum you appreciate, so as to be very dainty. If an is a spell, and so to be very dainty. Uh, if an is Hibili of and on, to and for, by and with, from you. Let the hitback hurry his wayward air, and missive has time to take herself off. Twill be or the more wilfully in to meet, if the coming offence can send our shudders before. We fem to have being elsewhere, as though the had pissed in our fuff pins. Next to our shivering selves, we love sensitives best, for they are the Angelus, Brick, Fave, Jonquil, Sprig, Fleet, Nocturne, Smiling Brews. For they are the Angelus garment. We will be constant. What a word! And bless the day for whole hours too. Yes, for so long sign as we shall be heing in our created being of our elvishness the day you befell you dreadful temptation. Now, Prompsius, as at our requested, you will remain ignorant of all what you hear, and though if whilst disrobing at the edge of risk, the bisfiggings and idle hours that Stain finds tutu. Draw the veil till we next time. You don't want to peach, but be jemboed if ye do. Pre helps. We earns too much. How many months or how many years till the Meredith in first become? Bashfulness be tupped. May he clop her, may he mix and mass, clop her. Talk with of hair, and you wake as a TARDIS. That's muss, says the law. List. Kiki Lacey, the pre-gained, and Bianca Mutatini, her conversa, drew their fools longst, finished first, Herzog von Valentam, but me and me other raven, me cousin of mine, have more good three chancers, where others, after Bonaparte's. The the my thing smile of me, my wholesome assumption, she's not me without as whim twin here within, that I love like myself fish, like smithereens robin song, like Junus nuts lost, like the blue of the sky. If I stoop for the spies between the white young might call limbs, how their duel makes their trial. Ears wax for Sir Sod, dong dong bullets for the Iris rifles, Queen's wealth of Kukum in their combs for their Jenny Joes, Caraseums, honey swarms where Melly spawns, will be all buzzy one another minis for the mere effect that you are so flood of pollen yourself. Tio mio, door. We fully, unspeechably thoughtless over it all in the Gizzy Gazelle tax bamboo wood. So please kindly communicate with the original sense. We are only yearning as yet how to burgeon. It's mint millims of sentiments, dead lost or mislaid, or them but master of snakes. We can slough change in the nip of an apple, so long as we can all see. For deed Seaton, you're quick. But the hook in your look, we'd eye for I where you begging the Quasiton with your Lucian bowl round monk's messerag. And wherever you're tingling in your throat, we're sure to be tangled in your tie-smits. It's game, ma chérie. Be off with your shepherd dress on. Up some cotta. Behold your handmaids for the Lord. To these new nunci, we are but yours and amateurs yet. Will come that day we shall opt to be oars. Then shalt thou see, seeing the sight, no more hoxities, nay, more gifting and maniger. A her's fancy for his friend, and then that fellow yours after this follow ours. Venereum domne vanius.
High time is ups be it down into outs according. When there shall be foods for vermin, as full of feeds for the fat, eat on earth as there's hot in oven. When every clitty of a scholar maid shall hold every yard scullin's right to stim her upfreet from whomsoever, whether on privates, whether in publics, and when all us romance Cathalines shall have ones for all ammon separated. And the world is made free, methanks, so much for his main shithy man, and all his big yittins. So till coquette, to tell cocotte, to teach Connie Curly, to touch Catty Hyrie, and tip Carmenia, to tap La Cherie, through where the diggings he dwelt among us, here's nobody knows save Mary. Why for we go wringing hands in hands in gyro rondo. These bright elects, constant corseted, where they're waltzing up their willside with their princesome, handsome Angeline Chioff, while in those werebus there won't bear's way, meering unknown, a place where pigeons carry fire to seethe the ands, a miry hill, Belgend saw footh, oaths and screams, and bawly groans, with belchy bubhub, and hella below, bedeemed and bediabbled, and a remaining lucisphere. Hell's did end, wells did else. Lonedom's breach lay fouled up uncouth, not to be broached by puns and riedels. Yet the ring gayed rund rosily, with a drat for a brat you. Yasha Yash ate sausage and mash, so he found the bash, poor Yasha Yash. And you wanna make one of our picnic party. No honorary whoest on our sposphistalist. For poor Glugger was dazed and late in his crave, he laid in his grave.
We did it.
Bravo, chaps.
Oh, amazing. Well done. Excellent. That was the first half of Chapter 2-1 from Finnegans Wake. And with our special guest, Lucy Brazier. Thank you, Lucy. It's so good to have you reading with us.
Absolute pleasure. I thought that went quite well, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. How are you feeling, TJ?
I got fooled. So here's the thing. The second the chapter started, I was like, oh, it's a play. Great. And so my brain did the thing that I do with every play that I read, because as listeners will know, and as Lucy knows, and as Toby knows, I'm a playwright. So I was just like, cool. I'm going to find the meaning, which is where my brain... And I was like, no, that's not the purpose of this. Just read the words. Just read the words. But the whole time y'all were reading, I was like, wait, what's the plot? And I was like, I have to let that go.
Never would James Joyce try to find the plot. Never.
I know.
Never.
I was like, I got set up. I got fooled.
But that's an interesting thing. The difference between our podcast and your book, Lucy, is that we were we read it out, and then sometimes we get to the end of the chapter and we're like, I don't know what's happening here. But your task on your book was to talk about what you thought was going on. So what happened when you got to chapters that felt impenetrable or tricky?
Well, there are a couple of chapters in my book where I literally put a warning and say there's going to be some swearing here. And then I'll have a bit of a swear, basically say I've got no idea what's going on, and then just try and pull whatever feeling I had about the chapter. So with this one, actually, TJ, I was exactly like you. I was like, okay, so this looks like a play. So, and actually, this chapter is one of the most readable of all the ones in Finnegans Wake. It is mostly in real life English. The words are words that you kind of can pronounce. And there's loads of sentences which are a bit random, but they are recognizable as English language sentences. So you think, okay, feel really confident with this one. But actually still doesn't make a huge amount of sense in lots of ways. I think that this chapter, if you're going to read Finnegans Wake, I think start with this one, because the beginning bit where it looks like a play is actually giving you a bit of a heads up about who the main characters are.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it would be a good one to start with, because it doesn't matter what order you read the book in, really. I've decided you could just pick it up, open it, start reading, and go from there. So I think this does give you a little bit of an overview of who sort of the cast are. And then after that, it gets a bit confusing because I'm not sure if it's actually supposed to be a play or if sort of life has carried on outside of the play and now we're back into the story. I think there's some fighting going on. There seems to be quite a lot of fighting sort of in the beginning bit when I guess it's Sean. Who's he here? Glug, I think we call. No, it's not, is it?
Right.
Who is he? I forget.
Shem is Glug.
Yeah. Okay. So it's the other one. Sean doesn't like do the win the guessing game. So he seems to have some bit of a fit. Seems to be some fighting, and then it kind of blends into like a keeping up with the Joneses of sort of Dublin high society of, oh, shall we have a red brick house? I think we should have a wooden house. And then there's a load of stuff about servants. And then you just kind of go with it, really. There's some quite nice, beautiful bits in, and I just think you have to enjoy it for just what it is. Yeah.
It's a really interesting point you make, though, about being able to start Finnegans Wake at the beginning of the second book, because we spent a lot of time in book one feeling as though we were getting a lot of backstory and a lot of context on the rumours and the legends and who ALP is and who HCE is and a lot of this kind of stuff. And if you put that and you say, okay, this is all backstory, and so we can start in book two. You don't want to disregard book one, but it's sort of interesting to think that book one is maybe a continuation of book four because it is cyclical. But it's an interesting point to think that we could start here.
Yeah, I thought when I got to this bit, when I read it on my first reading, I was like, oh, okay, so this is who everybody is. Right. That's something makes a bit more sense. I think I could be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure that Joyce wrote book one and book three first, and then wrote book two and shoved it in the middle, which is why it's got a bit more. And that was the bit that I think he took him like 12 years to do. The other bits were done in a few years. I could be wrong by that. Please don't write in and have a go at these good people if I am. That's my fault.
We make unsubstantiated claims all the time.
Yeah, so. Yeah. But I do think, book two has got a bit of a different feeling, but it opens with this kind of, it almost feels like a Midsummer Night's Dream almost, like, here we are. Let us set the stage, dear reader, viewer, whatever.
I think for me, the whole entire time, I was like, this feels like the most fun that the characters have had in a while. I was like, this girl's dancing, they're at a party. But here's the thing, I was like, this is why he has to figure out what his sister's underwear color is, because he can't end up with the wrong person in the middle of the night. I was like, I was like, okay, I think I got it. But I like it feels youthful, and I could sense the action and the idea that yes, they have this game at night, but then they also go to church and pray. But I'm still really struck by you are pure, you are pure, you are in your purity now. I was like, that's great, because it is so youthful and vibrant, and felt like an ode to youth.
Yeah, I really like that. This is a really kind of poetic musical one. When you read it out loud, you really get that sense of rhythm and sort of a sing-song kind of nature to it. It does feel a lot lighter than a lot of the other sections. How long will it continue, though?
Oh, yes, we have night lessons ahead of us, so we have all that to look forward to. But one thing that's interesting is that when I said, before we read, when I read out the chapter summary, which is not written by Joyce, is written by a scholar who is summarizing this. When I mentioned the sisters' underwear thing, everyone looked surprised, including you, Lucy, who's read this book before, which made me sort of think that maybe you didn't look up summaries of the chapters as you were reading ahead, which is a great way of doing it. Whereas we tend to, was hearing that context, that little tiny bit of context, did that change how you heard?
That massively helped. I didn't realise it was his sister's underwear that was involved. I knew underwear was involved, as it is a lot of the time. There's a lot of
Joyce's thing.
There's loads of that. I didn't realise it was his sister's underwear. Had I picked up on that, certainly the next section makes a lot more sense. But then, this would have had a lot more context for me. No, I didn't look up anything before I read it. I just kind of went with what I thought. So that's why my book is no help if you want sort of any kind of scholarly considered
well
sort of
I will
idea.
say your book is very reassuring, because you read your book and you go, oh, okay, no, I'm not just the only one who's struggling with some of this sort of stuff. I think it's easy to read these kinds of books. You open these scholarly editions and the scholars are so assured as to what's going on, and then you read it and you think, I must be stupid because I don't get any of this. But obviously a lot of that comes from generations of scholarly work that's building on one another. Whereas if you're reading it with that context, and I think the idea of reading it with that context is probably a really good thing, but it changes the way that you read.
It really does. And let's be honest, it's not the sort of book anybody's really got the time or headspace to go back and reread again, like you might with other books. So I think having some of that background is a really, really good idea. When I did my book, it was, all right, so it was a bit of fun, but it was also just for people who thought, yeah, I really fancy giving it a go, but oh my God, look at the state of it. I can't do it. Well, let's just read this really kind of condensed version of a woman saying, well, I've no idea but what's going on, but loads of rude bits. Here are the funniest bits. Knock yourself out, crack on.
Yeah, that's one thing I love about the book, and it's something that I thought that we should, we were 4 or 5 episodes in before I went, oh, I should have added this, which was you have a section at the end where you say, each end of each chapter, where you say, this is my favorite line, this is something that was funny, where you actually pull those out, and we were too far in for me to institute it, and then I saw you do it and I was like, good. That's what I wish I'd done.
Well, some of the
from
bits
episode
are just
1
quality, aren't they? And you think, well, even if nobody's ever going to pick up the whole thing, I just want at least people to say, look, just look at these bits, look how awesome these bits
Absolutely. Well, I mean, one thing you may not have heard in our podcast so far is that TJ and I have committed to Finnegans Wake tattoos by the end of this podcast.
Wow.
So we are always on the hunt for what it's going to be.
I have my
I think
line.
TJ's got his line already.
Yeah.
What's your line, TJ?
It was life, but was it fair? It was free, but was it art? I just love that so much.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Well, actually, I've got some artwork up in my hallway, which I had done when my book was published, and I've got a quote from that. And mine is, all that has been done and done again. So I think that would probably be my one. And that just kind of captures the cyclical nature of the book and of life. And I think it's one of the core messages that comes through from Finnegans Wake. But we won't go into that now because you've got all the rest of the book to go.
No, yeah, we've got so much ahead of us. But in terms of the context, we generally tend to go over the summary at the end of the podcast, just to sort of talk about how the Oxford World's Classic have summarised each of those sections. And so we'll see whether or not any of this contextualises us further. So this is following the page and line numbering conventions that are standard for this text. So as I said, we're in section 2.1, which is night games or child's play. Glug, Shem must guess the colour of his sister's underwear. So from page 219 to 222.20, a playbill, dramatis personae and acknowledgements. So we all got that. 222.21 to 226.3, The stage is set. The game is on. Hints at the chosen colour, heliotrope, are given. We hear about Glug's shortcomings, the Floras, his first guess, and him losing. Page 226.4 to 234.5, Isa is introduced, and one of the Floras or Rainbow Girls, Glug, resentful, will reveal his parents' shortcomings. He writes a bad poem, gets a toothache, pulls himself together, and tries again, but guessing yellow, loses. Page 234.6 to 237.9, Chuff appears, a saint. The Floras sing to him, there is a te dansant. 237.10 to 240.4, a love hymn of bourgeois dreams and prophecy of women's power. So those are the sections that we read as the scholars outline it to us. And we do that summary at the end of every chapter, but I'm not sure it helps us too much.
I'm like, sure.
I didn't get a lot of that. But one thing I got that the scholars didn't, but I could be wrong. But I've got here. Anyway, Glug goes away, has lots of fights, does a poo in a river, and then goes home. They missed that. I've got that.
That feels very important.
I think it's relevant.
I mean,
I think so.
It's the thing I'm continuously like. I'm not going to say it's helping. It is helping me fall in love with this book. Who am I lying? Like, just how dirty it is too, and like lowbrows the humor is. And I'm just like, I'm kind of here for it. It's like pure filth dressed up in highfalutin language, and I'm all about it.
Yeah, it's just hiding it all underneath there.
Marvelous.
Yeah, Joyce was a bit of a deviant, but we love him for it.
We do.
It's really nice to hear a British voice reading this text.
Yeah, well,
it is. You read very well, and your accents really bring so much to the table.
Thank you. I would perhaps suggest you get an Irish guest on, because I think it's written in an Irish accent. So perhaps have a little hunt for a lovely Irishman or Irish woman, maybe, to do a bit. There's a lot of Irish Joyce fans.
If you're an Irish person who enjoys this podcast, please contact us on Spotify.
Yes, please do. Because if my Texan self can struggle through this, so can you.
This shows that, I mean, the number of languages that appear in this book. Why not have we have a reading today of 3 separate accents from 3 separate continents. That's beautiful. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, and very much within the feeling of the book. I mean, some of the language is clearly made up language. So if you want to get some fictional characters to come in maybe and read and just invented people.
Yeah.
Very joyful.
I will say, this book makes me want to learn Latin, and I'm like, why didn't I take Latin in high school? Because I'm like, I don't know.
I did Latin at school, and it hasn't helped me an awful lot because it's kind of made up Latin as well. So, yeah.
Well, that's reassuring. So I was I don't know.
I will say that on page 231, the first reference of Festy King, 2 more, and TJ will write the play. So that's nice to...
Oh, where?
That play is being written. I mean, I can tell you now. So.
Yeah, Festy comes back a few more times.
Festy King's quite important.
Uh-oh.
No.
Go on, TJ.
I mean, I saw Feast King, and I was like, "Is that Festy?"
That's him. It's the same thing. Can I have a part in the play? I want a part.
100%.
100%. Just a background. I don't have to speak, but you know.
No, it's too late. No, you're talking now.
That's it.
Yeah, I'll be in the Festy King play. Super.
You can play Kate.
Yeah, you messed around and made friends, so here you are.
Marvelous. I'm well up for it.
Yeah, it's an interesting chapter. It's one of those ones that is sort of sneaks up on you, and HCE and ALP are conspicuously elsewhere, which allows the kids to run riot a little bit. And we're going to see more of this as we go through the rest of the book. So anything else stand out for you from this chapter?
It's just really the poo in the river, which I was sad that wasn't a bit more obvious.
Maybe that was they just figured that we'd all get that, and so they didn't even mention it. They didn't want to be too obvious.
Yeah, I think. In that section, I think we've you covered the best bits. I think you guys are really going to enjoy the next half of this chapter and the book as it goes forward. I'll be listening closely to the podcast to see how you get on and the various interpretations.
Yes.
Because there's no wrong interpretations, I don't think, of Joyce, really.
No, I don't think
I
so.
don't think there's any. He wouldn't criticise any interpretation of his work.
You mentioned here in the book that you found all these references to Goldsmith's "She Stoops to Conquer" in this, which I was very impressed by.
Well,
wow, that's okay, great.
Must have been having a particularly
restoration-ish day.
Yeah, but I think there is some, because again, the Stoops to Conquer, that's kind of a story of lots of like misinterpreted signals and lines and rumours and gossip, which very much Finnegans Wake is as well. And you have got in this bit, in this section, that kind of where it goes all kind of a bit middle class, and people are wanting to introduce their family members to lords or whatever they were. So that's sort of it kind of mixing it. But there's so many literary references all through the whole book. Mm-hmm. You would have to be incredibly well read, I think, to catch them all. But there's just all little Easter eggs in there to look out for, and I feel different about it having read it again than when I did the first time. It's kind of made me want to read the whole thing again. I'm just going to listen to your podcast instead. I'm not going to actually read it.
Well, we'll get you on.
I'm sorry we did that to you.
No, it's fine. It's fine. While you guys are doing the hard work, I'll just listen back to it. So
and then we'll bring you back in book 3. So don't worry. We'll
fantastic.
Come and do another episode.
Yeah,
I will say, really, I loved how poor Issa on 226. She was like, "I'll go anywhere that he wants to go, but if he moves to France, I'm done."
Absolutely not. I think maybe is that like an Oscar Wilde reference? He had that quote, didn't he? That all bad socialites go to Paris or something when they die. I don't know. Maybe it's a reference to Oscar Wilde.
I just thought it's like wherever he goes, she's there, except France.
Not France.
I think a good summary of this chapter. I mean, this is the summary of the chapter as from your book, but. You say, in many ways, this chapter is relatively plain speaking, and if I had read the cast list before I started the book, things might have been a bit clearer. But as is typical with Joyce, just when you think you're getting the hang of his prose, he throws you off kilter once again, and I was soon returned to my usual state of merry confusion. I feel as though merry confusion is very much the theme of this podcast. We sound smooth, and we sound like we know what we're talking about, but merry confusion is the order of the day.
Magnificent.
That's fantastic. Well, this has been really fun. And we don't want to take up too much more of your time, so we will end it there. That's all the time we have for Wake. We will return next week to complete Chapter 2-1 and find out just what these siblings are really getting up to, maybe. I've been Toby Malone, joined as ever by TJ Young, the busiest man in all of podcasting. Our huge thanks to Lucy Brazier for joining us. Where can we find your work? Where can we send people to?
The easiest place, I guess, is my website, which is portergirl.com. There's a whole collection of everything I've done there. Finnegans Wake is probably the most useful, but you might want to look at the other stuff.
And Porter Girl is a series that you've written.
Yes, that is based on my time working in Cambridge University, at Cambridge College, where I was the first female deputy head porter.
Amazing. And so that the porter gets up to all sorts of adventures.
All kinds of adventures. There are some murders, but it's very much based on my real experiences, not the murders, but other stuff. And that just inspired that and started me on my little writing journey there. So
not the murders that you want to tell us,
Yeah.
Lucy's book is called Finnegans Wake, a guide by an idiot. I am here to say that Lucy is no idiot. She has been a delight to be here with us today. So thank you so much for being here. We're looking forward to seeing you again on a future episode.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, chaps. I'll see you soon. Take care.
Yes, absolutely. And for you listeners, we'll see you next week, amateur gamification fans. This has been Wake, a cold reading of James Joyce's Finnegans Wake, just to hear it out loud. If you've made it this far, thank you for your dedication. Join us next week for another segment of Finnegans Wake and a chat about what we've found. Wake is a Moon Street Media podcast, engineered by TJ Young and Toby Malone. Our theme song is The Ballad of Perso Riley, arranged and performed by Meg Logue after James Joyce. Wake is recorded in Canada, where Finnegans Wake is in the public domain. For community and bonus content, join us at our free Patreon at patreon.com/wakepod. If you have questions about Finnegans Wake, don't ask us. We're just as confused as you are. See you next week.